Taking a stake in the lakes this morning on For the Record. Good morning, I'm Neil Heinen. It's rather remarkable that 2012 marks the 25th anniversary of the annual Dane County Take a Stake in the Lakes event. For one thing, it's grown from a weekend to 3 weeks of activities, but our lakes have changed as well, as has our approach to protecting them and cleaning them up, to a large degree because of the growth of the Clean Lakes Alliance. We will talk about all things lakes this morning as I welcome to For the Record Dane County Executive Joe Parisi, Ken Johnson, who heads the DNR's Water Division, Bob McElroy, who is a Senior Vice President at Land's End and oversees that company's Go Green Committee, and my colleague, Madison Magazine editor and Clean Lakes Alliance member, Brennan Nardi. Kind of a diverse group of people here, and we'll talk about that. But I want to start with you, County Executive Parisi, just the idea that it's been 25 years and it is three weeks. Talk a little bit about Take a Stake in the Lakes and how you've seen it kind of progress over the years.
Yeah, I think Take a Stake in the Lakes really reflects our community's interest and commitment to our lakes. And as you said, it started out as a couple of days of people, getting debris out of the lakes and coming together to make a difference. And it's grown into a much broader 3-week effort that's everything from people getting things out of the lakes, literally, that what we think of, pulling a tire out here or there, to working on native landscapes near the lakes, at the edges of the lakes, that help absorb runoff. Because what we're finding now, and what we're really focusing on now more and more, and I'm sure we'll talk about it today, is really addressing some of the root causes of some of the challenges our lakes have. And a lot of that has to do with what is running into the lakes, namely phosphorus.
And there's no question this has been a growing priority for county government over the last quarter of a century.
Yes, absolutely. And now we're seeing so many other partners come to the table. So we're taking, the county did a lot of work over the last couple of decades, a lot of research, a lot of figuring out, okay, why do we have the challenges with our lakes? What are the sources of some of the runoff, et cetera? And again, we're both focusing on phosphorus. And what we've been doing with our partners is identifying these phosphorus target areas that we call them, where we know a lot of phosphorus is coming from and where we can do something about that phosphorus in a very cost-effective manner. And now we're starting to put those practices into place.
And we have some of those partners here today. We're going to come back, as you suggested, Joe, and talk about some of the things that Dane County's doing. But Ken Johnson, how often has it been said that Madison's lakes are the most studied lakes in the world? I don't know. It's probably it's a cliche that gets passed around a lot. But from the DNR's perspective, how do you look at what's going on in the Yahara watershed?
Well, I think it's an exciting process. We have been, the Yahara lakes have been studied a lot. We have studied them yet again. 2 years ago, we came up with yet another model that helped us figure out where the hot spots are on phosphorus. And I think we know more about the lakes than we ever have, especially where the phosphorus is concerned. We know a lot about what causes blue-green algae blooms. It's phosphorus. That's why we're so concerned about phosphorus. We know that if we're going to get control of this, we have to work with a lot of different players to get control of the loads that we have in the lakes. And this is exciting because it's a collaborative effort. And we finally, it seems to me, I've been working around the Yahara lakes for the last 20 years, and it seems like we've finally gotten sort of over the hump where we've got community interest to the point where we're actually going to make some progress, and it's exciting.
So just if we can put this in the context of a state agency, are these, this project, these lessons then applicable to other waters in the state?
We hope so. Yeah, we hope so. Particularly the partnerships that we're trying to develop, we hope to emulate them in other places. Clearly, I have an interest in this project. This is where I live. But we'd like to have these be models that we can translate to other areas of the state.
Bob McElroy, it's interesting. Private business has really stepped up here in the last few years in terms of the Clean Lakes Alliance in particular. Maybe you could explain why Land's End and what kind of a partnership is it from your perspective?
So the words that come to mind most quickly are pride, commitment, and a requirement, frankly. Our history is, for those who don't know, Gary Comer, who started our company, was a sailor. And our company is built around the water and around the lakes. The pride, if you would have seen the team when they were working on Take a Stake in the Lake a week ago Friday, the pride from that team was terrific. The commitment we as a company said to the organization at large, anybody who volunteers, we will figure out a way to get you there. We'll figure out a way to get you a full day's salary for a portion of the work. So we're committed as a company, and then as a requirement, I believe that business today, if you're not successful in taking care of the community, and if you're not successful in taking care of the environment, you will not be successful financially. So from a business perspective, this makes a lot of sense.
I mean, it's great that a Dodgeville company feels this kind of a connection to this area. But of course, a lot of people who work at Land's End live in the Yahara watershed, right?
A lot of our people live in the Yahara watershed. We live here, we work here, we play here. You know, our founder, Gary Comer, again, he has a phrase that's plastered throughout all of our buildings, throughout all of our different campuses, and it says, take care of the customer, take care of the employee, and the rest will take care of itself. Yeah. We think that if we help in taking care of the water, we would have taken care of both of those things.
Brendan, before we go to the break, maybe we just spend a couple of minutes talking about the Clean Lakes Alliance, which is still a relatively young organization, but has gotten a lot done in a pretty short period of time.
I've been amazed by the speed at which this group of people has worked together in conjunction and collaboration, really, with these people who've been working for so many years on this issue, the county and the state, the city, and so forth. And then you have the private sector coming on board, sitting at the table, Land's End, Spectrum Brands. You have the mayor of Monona. All of these people coming together and saying, okay, this is sort of a 2.0. We know it needs to be done. Let's collaborate. Let's build a roadmap. Let's do it. And it's happening. And it's really amazing to see as a journalist covering this community, but also as a member. And I live here and I work here and I play here too. And it's been really rewarding and gratifying. And there's a lot of work to be done, but we are on our way.
When you say it's happening, to some degree it's measurable, sure. What's not going into the lakes, the clarity of the lakes. But then, what, the evolving partnerships, huh?
There's exactly. Well, there's 22 action items is what has come out of this engineering report over the last year that people have been working very hard on. They are going to be implemented. And the State of the Lakes report card, which finally pulls together data from the state, from the county, from public health on phosphorus levels, beach closures, water clarity, that really can show us the variables from year to year, you know, why it's clearer now than it is, you know, last year or yesterday and today, but also over time. We're going to be able to see in hindsight what happened, how it happened, and how we made it better.
When we come back, we're going to talk about Dane County's first in the nation approach to this issue, and we'll do that in just a minute. We are talking about Take a Stake in the Lakes and the Clean Lakes Alliance this morning, wrapping up the 3-week Take a Stake in the Lakes event for 2012, the 25th anniversary of Take a Stake in the Lakes. Brendan Nardi and Joe Parisi and Ken Johnson and Bob McElroy are with me this morning. And Joe, earlier in the week, there was an event out at Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District, and I'm going to want Ken to talk about this too, but it's this, I guess, next step in the adaptive management system that we've got in place here. Talk a little bit about what happened this past week.
Sure. Well, it was great. Adaptive management is a new approach to addressing phosphorus and to help people fit into the new phosphorus rules that have come down from the federal and the state government that have really enabled this process to move forward, because everyone has to reduce the amount of phosphorus they're discharging, be it different communities or sewerage districts like Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District or MMSD. Now, you can do that in one of two ways. MMSD could, for example, treat that at the tail end of the cycle, after all the water's gone through the lake system, and it would cost them about $120 a pound to get rid of phosphorus. Or they can, through adaptive management, which means looking up at the North Mendota watershed, at the source before the phosphorus comes through our watershed, work with partners there, like some of the farm families we're working with, to plant buffer strips along ditches, to put roofs over animal feedlots, et cetera, to do projects like that, everywhere from that low-tech to the high-tech manure digesters that we've done in the community. But the benefit is toofold. first, you can do it for about a quarter of the cost. So it saves taxpayer dollars, and you're addressing it at the source before it gets into the North Mendota watershed. So we're keeping it out of our lakes, and we're saving tax dollars. And it's possible to do this because we're coming together in a partnership with the city, the county, MMSD, and a number of municipalities across the region, as well as some of our private partners like the Clean Lakes Alliance.
Now, Ken, you touched on this. The state sort of made this a priority, what, 2 years ago, huh?
In 2010.
And it was. And what did that mean? I mean, in terms of of the whole state approach to this.
Well, the reason we were actually pushed into doing it by the threat of lawsuits from outside people and EPA. When we looked at it, we looked at the science behind it and tried to figure out what the breakpoints are for establishing where good water quality standards are within lakes and streams. And as a result, we've established in-water quality standards for lakes and streams. Now, to do that, what we have to do is, to achieve those standards, we have to make sure that all the discharges, being point or non-point, have to meet those standards, so we achieve those water quality standards. So that can either be done through, as the executive said, through the end-of-pipe treatments or through an adaptive management program like you've just talked about, and the last one we can have is a trading program, which can be aspects of adaptive management as well, too. So it's sort of like we made the decision that we're going to control phosphorus, and now we have to move toward a least cost solution. And I think that the community, Dane County community, has determined that the least cost solution is probably going to be adaptive management.
Ken, one of the issues, of course, is the phosphorus starting at the top of the watershed, off the farms in many cases, and part of the piece of the puzzle is really getting the farm community to get collaborating together with the city, the county, private citizens, so on and so forth. I've been amazed again in what I've seen at Clean Lakes Alliance is the farm community coming to that table, and it sounds like it's something that you had worked with farmers in other ways, and that this is a kind of the next iteration of that.
Well, that's the Yahara Pride piece that we're talking
Yahara
about.
Pride Farm.
And I think what we tried to do is emulate a little what we did with the Green Tier Clean Waters initiatives, where we went to the stormwater community and said, you know, how can we work with you guys to reduce in a collaborative fashion rather than a regulatory fashion to reduce your phosphorus load? So we came to the agriculture community with the same kind of concept, and this is the idea here is it's a self-directed group of farmers that work to establish practices that work for the agricultural industry. Who better to figure out those practices than the farmers? So and it's self-directed. It's not regulatory. So we're excited about seeing how that's going to go forward. Right now, there's about 35 farmers invested in it. So it looks like it's taken off again. So.
Bob, if you could just wear your Clean Lakes Alliance hat for the moment. You know, in the past, it wouldn't be unusual to see Dane County and DNR and MMSD have a news conference about something like this. Help us understand the importance of having the Clean Lakes Alliance, this particular unique alliance, now very much a part of that, of a news conference like that, of a public awareness like that.
You know, there's a very practical part to this thing as well, whether you're a small business or a large business. So I listened to Ken talk, you know, very smartly about the technical part of this. But as a business and as a business partner with the Clean Lakes Alliance, I think of a handful of reasons as to why what you're hearing right now is critically important to what we do every day. And so I'll just take a quick one and say, from a recruitment and retaining perspective for executives in our organization, when people come into Madison Airport and they see the beauty and the physical surroundings of Wisconsin, especially the lake portion of it, we almost have them locked into wanting to be in this organization. And then the people who have made the decision to join us, once they realize all the efforts that are being undertaken by the team of people sitting here, it's easy to retain people and keep that talent within Wisconsin and help Land's End ultimately succeed, and Wisconsin ultimately succeed.
We're going to come back and talk about next steps and how people can help right after this. We are back. Our topic this morning is a growing movement for clean lakes in Madison and Dane County. We're going to talk about a couple aspects of that in this last segment. The fact that it is growing, we'll get to in a minute, but the relationship with agriculture, it's come up a couple of times, Joe. And it can't be overplayed. I mean, it's a really important component of this.
No, you're so right. We could not do this. We could not make the headway we're making without the commitment that we have had from farm families throughout Dane County. And when you look at the adaptive management model, everyone has to reduce their phosphorus. It's often much less expensive to reduce it in the ag areas. So, I would argue that our farm families are actually saving city dwellers taxpayer dollars because they're cooperating with us and allowing us to do some of the adaptive management in those areas north of the Mendota watershed. And they're extremely committed to protecting our waterways.
And in fact, Ken, that hasn't always been, I mean, farm families are sometimes miscast as being objecting to this kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely. I think if the farmers that I talk to consider themselves stewards and conservationists, and I think they are stewards and conservationists, what we're trying to do is engage them in figuring out how they can reduce phosphorus load. And clearly there's a relationship with agriculture and phosphorus loads, and this is an honest dialogue in how we can make it well for us, or better for the community, and for them at the same time.
The other component, Bob, that we just touched on briefly was the idea of the Go Green Committee at Land's End, which is, got this idea of sustainability sort of at its heart. And sustainability, just by definition, there's really not an end. It's not something that you just work towards, all of a sudden you accomplish it and it's done. It's like an ongoing process by definition, right?
I could not agree more. The organizations that are out there today that are saying that they've done great things in terms of or under the guidance of sustainability are probably not doing a great job of it. The people who recognize just what you said now, they're the people who understand that this is just a point in time. Very few people should stand out there and beat their chests as to how terrific they have done, the jobs that they've done, versus say, we've made improvements, we definitely are improving. In talking to Ken in the break, there are great improvements happening in Wisconsin, and I suggest strongly that this is just a point in time, but we're continuing to improve, and one day we'll just get closer to the end goal.
And that's the way Go Green approaches its work at Land's End, and that's what you bring to the Clean Lakes Alliance.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. This is a small group of people who are incredibly passionate, incredibly committed, who started the movement. We've got eons to go with, but today, some really terrific results to date. But the team recognizes we've got a long way to go.
What's next for Clean Lakes Alliance, Brennan?
Well, I love that a big part of their message is, especially right now, is to get out and enjoy the lakes. We have all of this public access to it, so get out and boat and get out and do everything you love to do living here in Madison, and that heightened sense of awareness of our use of the lakes and people seeing the lakes more and understanding the sort of sense of urgency. It is a long-term process, but we have there's a really interesting, this is really interesting timing now where people are coming together. So getting out and enjoying the lakes is a fun part of that message.
And what are next steps for Dane County, Joe?
Well, we'll continue to build our partnerships. We'll continue to look at projects like another manure digester, working with people around the community. And this is a really exciting time in Dane County, and I think for the whole lakes and sustainability movement in general, because I believe we're moving past the place where people used to point fingers at each other. We don't need to do that. That's not productive. Everyone's coming together and saying, we all love these lakes and we all want to make a difference. And I see more concrete results and stronger partnerships moving forward. So it's an exciting time.
Actually, there was a letter to the editor earlier in the week, I think on Monday in the State Journal, talking about more access to the lakes. And this was someone who I think wanted, more restaurants on the lakes. But you hear a lot about people wanting more public access to the lakes. And I think to some degree, people don't understand how much access there is currently. But it's also sort of an ongoing part of the city planning conversations, the county economic development conversations, that public access to the lakes is really, it's an important need for the citizenry.
Absolutely. Well, we just, as an example in the county, we just made a purchase on Lake Waubesa, and there are different types of access that provides access for people who want to come in and maybe drop a canoe into the lake, and then there's access maybe for larger boats in different parks. But I think you're right too. I think publicizing that which does exist now is an important piece of this.
That's a really good example. because there are biking opportunities, there are opportunities to get on the water that I think maybe some people think are not open to them.
Right.
But they actually are.
And City Parks this summer is starting swimming lessons on the lake for kids in communities near in neighborhoods near community centers. Swimming lessons in the lakes.
Had they not done that before?
Not for a long, long time.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, first of all, it's a great idea, but it would suggest that the lakes are getting cleaner. Right? That there's been a conscious decision made.
A lot being done with the beaches, especially.
Yeah.
To make sure that the things that aren't supposed to be there aren't there where kids are swimming.
Yep. All right, well, Clean Lakes Alliance has a website. I encourage people to go there for more information. Dane County's website always has information about the lakes.
Lakes and Watershed Commission.
Lakes and Watershed
Also.
Commission, excellent,
Yeah,
excellent point. So, happy 25th anniversary. It's just amazing to me when I mean I remember doing For the Record, and it was all about going and pulling stuff out of the lakes for 48 hours.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
Yeah.
And Phelps would be out there pulling stuff out of the
I've
lakes.
seen the pictures, yeah.
Man, has it changed. Thanks very much. We're going to come back and wrap up For the Record right after this. My thanks to Joe and Ken and Bob and of course Brendan, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Sunday on For the Record.